Hey guys, how are you?
Morning.
Welcome to Coffee and Conversation on Yachting International Radio. It's not really Yachting International Radio, it is Facebook Live, but we are recording for purposes of heading it for radio as well later. So you'll be able to listen to this interview in its entirety on the radio. We will be posting the times up on our social media, of course, if you aren't able to watch it here, because it does take a while and it's a bit of time. And right now it's the busy season, so not a lot of people have chances. So yeah, Anton.
Hi.
How's it going? You, poor guy, he did the same thing as I did. He came here for the interview, and we're still at the Neptune Experience showroom. And he did what I did. We went to the wrong side of the building.
Well, actually, first of all, I went to San Agustin, which is where you sent me to, and that's miles away. Mm-hmm.
But I'd never been here before. Blame me. Do you know what? I'm so used to it. So we stood outside. I stood outside, and then I was managing. Melanie came down and got me and brought me around. And same thing for you. And we walked down to go get him, and he's doing the same thing, looking up because it's on the second floor from the other side. And
pressing buttons as well.
Yeah, I know. I did too. I'm sure someone's in there going, "Who are these people?" Anyway, it's very hot out there too. It's like,
about 400 degrees.
I was surprised because we had all that thunderstorm and everything yesterday, and I thought it would like at least clear the air of humidity, but that didn't really happen, did it?
No, not too much. Lots of red rain, which I'm sure all you yachties will be happy about out there.
Well, the boat owners won't be happy, and neither will the captains, but I'm pretty sure the day workers will be over the moon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about yourself. You've been in Palma for how long now?
I've lived in Palma for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
So I worked on a yacht initially called Animos, the sailboat, 3 years, and we were in the port of Marina Porto Mallorca. And after about 3 years, you start to get a bit cabin fever, and I was looking to rent an apartment here in Mallorca. And then my captain said, "You may as well buy." So off I went, had a look, got a mortgage, and never looked back. Best thing I ever done.
So chefing actually was your first. It wasn't, you never got into chefing to be on a yacht.
No.
You got into chefing because you love to cook.
That's right, yeah.
So where did you take your training?
I trained at Newcastle University, Northumberland University, for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I've done my NVQ level 1, 2, and 3. So it's the catering college in Northumberland. Yeah, I've done that. God, that was back in 1991, I think, something like that.
We don't say dates.
Okay. Yeah, show my age off.
Then people will know how old we are. And where did you go from there? You started working in different restaurants. Did you primarily work in England, or did you?
Yeah, initially I primarily worked in England for sure. Italian restaurants, French restaurants. And then I went down south to London, worked in London city centre for a bit. That was crazy in my 20s. Fun times were had there. Burning the candles at both ends, without a shadow of a doubt. I've done some freelancing work around London as well. Some good, some not so good. It's a bit of look at the draw sometimes with agency work, so I'm sure a lot of chefs will know. And then after that, I went off to France, to Corsica, and I worked for Mark Warner. So I've done a summer season with them, which was an eye-opener, to say the least. Slave labour comes to mind. But then we then went off and done a winter season in Val d'Isere with them as well, which was good fun. Again, slave labour. It's quite an interesting story because when I first went out to Corsica, I kept a property which I rented in Newcastle, and because I thought the salary of 456 French francs was a lot of money. Of course it wasn't.
That's per month?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I think it was equivalent at the time of around about £50 a month. And I wasn't the only one that thought that. So when we all arrived, and everyone's working out the money, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is 50 quid a month."
What was your rent?
£50 a week.
Oh dear. So much for that job. That was
exactly,
good,
yeah. So the house went, that's for sure. Couldn't afford that. But it was good fun summer season.
And was it a good experience?
Very interesting. Yeah. It's good to get away as well,
Well, I guess it's a bit of, it's a holiday. I was going to say it's a bit of a paid holiday, but no, not really, just a holiday. While you worked.
Yeah.
Right.
It was fun. We enjoyed it. And I met quite a few good friends who are still friends to this day there. And one of them's a yachty as well.
Nice. And that's how you got introduced to the yachting industry then?
No, actually, I got introduced into yachting when I worked down in London at the Cavendish Hotel. A friend of mine, Ollie McEwen, he's been in yachting for, God, probably 25 years now. Sorry, Ollie, giving away his age. So he first talked to me about it when I worked down in London at the Cavendish. And I wasn't really interested. I didn't know anything about boats and yachts and all this sort of stuff. So fast forward 4 years, I'm back up in the northeast in Newcastle. It's winter, January time. It's miserable, it's cold, and I'm doing split shifts in the pizzeria. Not really loving it.
No.
And then he got into touch with me and said, look, my old boss is looking for a chef for a small Sunseeker vessel for the summer. Do you want to go give it a go? And I just said, yeah, why not? Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Off I went. And it was only a 23-metre Sunseeker, 3 crew. It was 5 months of the summer season. And I went down, had the interview, got the job. Off I went to the south of France, into Antibes. Joined his boats, done the season. It was absolutely mental, crazy, hard work, hardest I've ever worked in my life.
So even worse than being on France, getting paid nothing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was a shit fight, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know, absolute shit fight from start to finish. The boat was sold mid-season. And we were meant to have a 6-week period of time off in between this, 4 months charter. There was one guy, 4 months charter, but he split it up into different segments to give the crew a break. And when the boat was sold, the new owners filled up all those gaps. And we were doing, literally, the guests would get off and the owners would get on the same time.
Oh, wow.
We didn't even have time to change the sheets, So at the end of that, I was just quite disillusioned. I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. I went back to England, and then I got a phone call from a captain on Anos here in Palma, Richard Foster, aka Pratty. Quite a few people here in Mallorca will know him. And he offered me a job. He said, look, come out for a week, try it. If we don't like you, we'll send you back. If you don't like us, you can go back. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
That's the way it should be, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that was that. And I've been a yachty ever since. Never looked back.
So that was 10 years ago then?
2004 was the first, yeah. So what's that?
It's 2019 now.
15 years. 10, wasn't it? 15 years, yeah.
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah. So have you found that the wages for a chef has stayed the same, dropped, or risen?
It depends, really. That's a hard one. I don't think they've changed dramatically over the last... if I compare to what I was getting paid on a sailboat 12, 13 years ago to what I get paid now on a big mega yacht with 85 meters to 100 meters, there's not a vast difference when you compare, size-wise sort of thing,
See, because that's one thing I noticed on a lot of the social media sites with yachting is that there is a large complaint about wages and the fact that they are getting paid generally about equally to 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The cost of living has risen exponentially.
Yeah.
So
I feel they've been stagnant for quite some time now.
Yeah.
There's been no major, sort of increase at all for at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely my salary bracket has been relatively the same for at least 8 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, within very short parameters of, figures. So,
Well, and I guess with yachting, it's not sort of governed by, for example, one specific country, because if you work on land, there is sort of a cost of living raise. The governments will get together and they'll say, okay, now we've got to make minimum wage this, but you don't have that in yachting because you're all different countries. The flags of the yachts are all different countries. So there's nothing really sort of maintaining an average aside from the industry itself governing itself.
I think it's definitely the industry self-governing. I do see, and I often question, why is this salary still the same as it was, 5, 6 years ago? It was a big, it's a long time without a change in salary for sure.
Well, I was talking to a captain the other day and he was saying, because of the change, years ago, captains used to drive fancy cars and live a lovely life, outside of work. And now, they're still making the same wage, but of course, because everything is so much more expensive, that's just not the way things work anymore. It's not, as fancy as everybody is led to believe, per se.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Chefs included. So what's your favorite dish? What do you like to cook the most?
As a yacht chef, if there's one thing we hate being asked is that question. Most chefs do, actually, because we don't have a favourite, really. To be a yacht chef, you have to be able to apply your hand to everything. Because you don't know what you're going to get asked for. And, you get asked for some bizarre stuff that you've never heard of or you've never done.
I suppose maybe the question should be, what do you like to eat the most?
Personally, I do like a lot of Asian food.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of Asian, light and healthy, all that sort of stuff. But I don't necessarily always eat that because sometimes it's just easier to, pull something out of the freezer. You pre-made yourself at home, whack it in the oven, so to speak. I do a lot of that. I batch cook stuff, and then you've got a lot of curries and stuff like that ready to go.
I can imagine that being a chef on a yacht has actually gotten a lot more difficult in the past few years, just for the simple fact that so many people have such strict dietary requirements now. And some of them are completely made up because they're vegetarian up until they've gone out drinking and come back and expect a kebab or,
diving into the ham, or the leftover burgers. It happens quite a lot. Cheese and ham toast. Oh, I thought you were vegan.
Yeah.
Interesting. And we notice that a lot, and then that's it. It's kid gloves are off. You're not vegan.
Yeah. But do you find it's more difficult to not only provision, because there is such a small space on a yacht as far as the galley goes. And so when you do have, say, for example, you've got 6 or 7 different charter guests, and each one of them has a different dietary requirement. Are you finding that you've got to make 6 or 7, well, not necessarily, but 2 or 3 different meals completely to suit your guests?
Generally what happens is you pull back on the dish sort of thing, so you would start to separate it, so you wouldn't perhaps dress it if it's a buffet. You can give them all the different salads and what have you, but remove, maybe keep the cheese separate if it's a Greek salad. The dressing's always separate. Everyone wants clean food, they want to add their own dressings.
Right.
By doing that, you end up with lots of vegan dishes, vegetarian dishes in itself anyway.
Yeah.
And then you just have to really concentrate on the specific allergies.
Yeah, because more and more people are getting allergies now too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I just tend to frown and I just go, okay, right, whatever.
Well, see, I love food too much that I do have one allergy, and it seems to be Dorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I never fathomed that I would have that allergy until about the 5th restaurant, and it happened to be a Michelin star restaurant. And I realized that because they say that every time you eat a food that you're allergic to, that you get sick quicker and it lasts longer. And so by the 5th time, because I'm a bit of a slow learner sometimes, I realized that it wasn't the restaurant and it wasn't all fish. It was just the fact that I was deathly allergic to this fish.
Wow.
So
have you looked further into that? Is it just the fish itself? Or?
It's just the fish.
Yeah.
It's just the fish. Yeah. And they say, though, that whitefish is actually more likely for people to be allergic to than shellfish when I did the research. And you would have never thought of that because growing up, I always knew that, there were people that legitimately and more often than not would have an allergy to crab, lobster, shrimp, any crustaceans really.
I just wonder whether it's something to do with process, some chemical they use in the processing or the packaging, something like that. I don't know, but
possibly.
But yeah. I guess you're going to be getting it, or the restaurant's going to be getting it from a fresh fish monger. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I just stay away from it because it's a good diet plan for the summer, but
yeah,
you're sick for 48 hours, so you can't eat anything. It's like, hey, well, let's eat some Dorado for May. We're good for the summer.
we had an interesting story when it comes to allergies. When I worked on a yacht a few years back, the laundry guy, Filipino, lovely guy, Val. I probably shouldn't have said his name there. And he was allergic to shellfish and crustaceans. And I put out this, lovely shrimp dish and tomato sauce, spicy escabeche kind of thing. And he decided he was going to try the shrimps because they looked irresistible.
Because that allergy is nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a small, it's nasty.
Well, the next thing you know, he's having an anaphylactic shock.
Yeah.
And he starts swelling up and lips go and his throat goes and all this sort of stuff. And then the EpiPen comes out, and he's jabbed with that twice and everything settles down and he's okay. And then we ask him, of course, I get this information back to the galley. Someone's having an epileptic fit. An anaphylactic shock. Yeah. Reaction to the shrimp dish. And I'm like, who is it? They're like, Val. I'm like, why? we all know that he's allergic to it. And it turns out he just decided he wanted to try them. We're like, what?
Isn't that called natural selection? Bless him. I mean, not the...
Even he laughed about it. Like,
yeah.
Are you serious? I mean, I was having a heart attack,
I can imagine, thinking, because you were
there goes my job, Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
But when he said, no, just fancy trying it, I was like, unbelievable.
There's no accounting for intelligence at some points in time. Like, we've all made really silly decisions.
Yeah.
Not necessarily ones that have affected our lives or the potential to live, but we've all made decisions that are questionable at times.
Certainly have. I won't go into too many of mine.
No. Me either.
Definitely not.
So tell me, you have now recently, and I remember we were at a New Year's Eve party, ironically enough, a Sirens event. This was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And you were talking about what you're doing now, which is the port profile. At that time, you didn't have a name for it.
No, it was very early stages in development. It wasn't even, what it is today.
Yeah, you were just this was your idea. We were chatting about it that evening. And I always remembered it. And every time somebody mentioned your name, because people talk about you.
Oh,
like a lot. It's all good though.
I hope so.
But I would think, I wonder how that, whatever it was, his platform was going, because you were saying it was going to be an app and so on and so forth. And then I noticed all of a sudden Port Profile popped up in the spring this year.
April 27th, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like launched. And what a way to launch. I mean, you literally launched it at the Palma Super Yacht Show. What an amazing way. I mean, you can't go any bigger or better, can you?
No, not at all. No.
I mean, I suppose maybe the Monaco Yacht Show, but...
Yeah, but I don't have the money for that. So.
No.
Definitely not.
But, so tell me about it. Why did you think there was a need for it? I mean, this is something completely different than being a chef, for sure. So what made that transfer from being a chef to...
So the whole thing started with a Facebook page I had, and it was called Yacht Chef Support Network. And what I wanted to do was to take that from Facebook into a website, because at the time the functionality of Facebook pages was very minimal, so you couldn't do a lot with it compared to what you can do with the pages now.
Yeah.
So I took it from there to a web design company, and then to another one, fired them, went to another one, as you do when you're developing stuff. But during the process, in the course of that time, a couple of ideas were thrown around, why don't you, rather than just chefs, apply it to the whole industry? And then rather than the support network, what about recruitment? Because that seems to be pretty big. And then that's when Port Profile emerged, so to speak. And then after that, we basically spent 3 years really refining it and developing it further and turn it into what it is today. So that's how it all came about.
So when doing something, I mean, nowadays the trend is going towards more sort of cloud-based type programming as far as everything, because we're trying to go paper-free, we're trying to go office-free, we're trying to create sort of incomes for ourselves that go above and beyond location.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that is sort of out there, and it doesn't matter whether you be in New Zealand or Australia or on a yacht chefing, your company still ticks along.
Well, I mean, fundamentally for me, it was about creating a revenue stream that would equal and match, or if not, exceed what I earn today as a yachty, because the mere thought or idea of leaving yachting and then going back to a normal salary was quite depressing, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because you would miss the financial gains that you get working in yachting,
Yeah.
So that was, part of the idea as well, to create my own company, so an exit strategy, exit plan. However, I'm still working in yachting, obviously.
Well, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day.
No,
so, I mean, this
not.
is something that I think a lot of people make that mistake, and we see this on the island all the time. People start a business, and within 6 months, it's not a booming success. So they throw their hands up in the air and think it's all a failure, and they go home.
Yeah.
But realistically, I mean, research shows that it takes at least 2 years before your business starts really seeing a profit.
Yeah.
And you've got to be prepared to be in it for the long haul.
Absolutely. When I've done my financial forecast for the first 2 years, we're not showing a profit.
Yeah.
And we'll be lucky to show even breaking even, so me staying in yachting was always part of the plan from the get-go. I always thought, maybe a 2 year to 3 year overlap before I can fully exit yachting altogether and then have the income from my business.
So is the concept behind this that people can sign up on their own? Is there like an algorithm that literally matches sort of jobs to specific people? The more detailed that you are as a captain looking for whatever crew that you're looking for means that the algorithm can actually pick through and say, okay, well, this person speaks Spanish, German, English, Portuguese, and then match, specific tickets, match, where they're based out of as well for tax purposes, et cetera. So is that what the concept is with this?
So what I did with Port Profile is other agencies and platforms out there, and they'll send you an email with a chef's job, for example, but it's just based on the fact that it's a chef, nothing else. So I used to get fed up with being sent an email, new job, it's a chef, 20-meter yacht, female. I'm just like, why am I getting this? And so I thought, right, let's take this and add this to Port Profile, and then we thought, okay, we'll add location, experience, longevity, type of vessel, type of charter, whether it's private and charter, or private only. I said that. And salary bracket as well. So we match all the different criteria, and what we do is, with the job post itself, all that criteria is in there, and it's exactly the same as what's on your profile as a candidate. So all the major points are matched, and that's the algorithm in itself. And then we have the suitability indicator, which we call Cindy. And Cindy is essentially the algorithm, and she will then she'll match the closest, from 100% downwards, and so you get a set of results matching the criteria of your job post.
So now this is sort of, you can hire crew placement agencies to do that for you. There's quite a cost associated with that, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or you can do what a lot of captains are doing nowadays and putting it out on places like Palma Yacht Crew. But then you get about 1,000 people applying for the same job, and you have to filter through those. And sometimes you make a mistake, and you can't really afford that. If the boss is coming on tomorrow, you've just lost your chief stew. And what are you going to do when you're out to sea and you've got somebody who completely lied on the resume and you can't toss them over?
And they don't have the qualifications that they said they had.
Yeah. So tell me what makes yours better than the rest, and why people would want to sign up on your Port Profile as opposed to.
So the process for a yacht captain or a head of department, chef, chief engineer, chief stewardess, whatever the case may be, when you sign up to Port Profile as a candidate, if you sign up as a head of department, you'll automatically get the recruiter account and the candidate account. You can switch between two depending on what you want to do. So if I'm a head chef, I'm looking for a new head chef, sous chef, I can switch over to recruiter, post a job, fill out the criteria, and then I can then see who's suitable and available at the time based on location as well. So you'll get the closest ones to you. Not that necessarily matters all the time. And then, of course, you've got the candidates. They'll automatically get an email saying, your chef's job's been posted. It matches your preferences, it matches your criteria and your experiences and all this sort of stuff. They get an email notification sent. They can then log in, look at the job, apply for it if it's suitable to them. And then you, as the recruiter, the job poster, you can look at all the applicants, and then you can shortlist them or reject them. What happens then, as soon as they're shortlisted or rejected, we'll get an email notification saying, unfortunately, on this occasion, you haven't been successful. So it's keeping the candidate in the loop, so its transparency is there all that sort of stuff. So you know, you're not waiting, hanging around for a response, or you're chasing a recruiter, or you're chasing the person that's posted a job on Facebook or something like this. And again, like I say, with Facebook, you won't get tens of thousands of applications. But if you do, you're in control as the job poster, because you can sift through them and go, yeah, look at that person, yeah, no. Then you can move to the next stage, which is the chat function. So you've got your list of shortlisted people. You want to chat to them. You've checked out all the documentation which they should have, and hopefully would have, uploaded to their profile. And you can just directly download them to your desktop. So it mitigates the possibility of blocking up the onboard servers, which is quite important. I've seen that a lot of times, and we all hear about it. Don't send massive emails.
Yeah.
I get it all the time.
Well, because there is limited Wi-Fi.
Of course, absolutely, bandwidth, yeah. And if you send a 1 kilobyte email and you're going to knock the server, and the ETO is not going to be very happy.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot. And as I mentioned that to a few greenies actually, and they were just like, oh, never heard about that. No one's told us this. You keep your CV to a minimum, 200 megabytes at least, maximum, sorry. And so this information isn't out there. So Port Profile does all of that for you in the background, streamlines it, simplifies it.
So you can choose, actually, and it's online, so it's cloud-based. So you can actually you're going onto the web, you're checking out what is there and choosing which to download in very small files.
Absolutely. You also download it direct from the desktop to your desktop. So you're bypassing the emails of it altogether, which is great. And it's a much faster way to download as well, like I say. So essentially, Port Profile is a virtual recruiter in a sense, if you like, but you're in control of it as the candidate and as the person that's posting the job. With the chat system as well, the candidate can't chat to you. You have to initiate that conversation. So again, you're in control of it. You don't want someone going
unsolicited emails or chats or because that happens a lot too.
Absolutely.
Actually.
I mean, I've got a friend who's a recruiter, and she gives a number out on WhatsApp, and we're having lunch, and it's bing, 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 bing. And it's the same person. She's like, this person's driving me nuts.
Well, not only that, the thing is, follow instructions, people.
Absolutely.
No one's going to hire you if you don't follow the instructions, because if you don't follow the simple instructions when there's a job posting, then the likelihood that you're not really that smart and smart enough to do the job is huge, and no one's going to hire you.
No, not at all. You're just going to get shoved to the back or deleted, essentially, That's what happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the top and bottom of Port Profile. It's a streamlined, automated process. Fully GDPR compliant as well. So we do all that sort of stuff. A lot of that is built in. I don't know how many people know about GDPR, but I know.
I don't.
You don't? Oh, wow. You'll be hearing a lot about it.
Is this something new?
Yeah, it was launched, was it this, last year, April 2018, it came into effect.
Okay.
And GDPR is about having the ability to, it's data processing. So the data that we process in Port Profile is your experiences, your documentations, your name, your email, all that sort of stuff. We have to provide, what's the terminology they use, ROPA, I forget now, it'll come back to me. But you need to show transparency, the ability to delete the data. So we use an automated process, so someone can just come along and delete their account. They can download all their account data. They request copies of it. And all of these different things you have to adhere to as per the GDPR.
So within the European Union, this is to do with digital.
It's global now, it's global, absolutely global.
Okay.
It's all data.
No, I do remember, and all of a sudden, everybody was sending emails saying, if you want to get a hold of us, this is how you have to do. And the websites, all of a sudden, you have to do, you have to read a whole thing and accept. And even when I'm coming back here from Canada, I'm finding that, every single website that I ever, had been on before,
re-sign up to,
I've got to do everything all over again. It's so frustrating, but it is what it is.
It's crazy. I mean, I found out about it, like I say, beginning of last year. And to implement all of that into the platform and learn about it and understand it, it cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And obviously it was another setback as well, because we had to pretty much, write new software.
It's like a privacy law, basically.
It is, absolutely, It's your right to your personal data. You need to know what that company's doing with it, and are they protecting it? You
By the
know,
way, thanks, Facebook. I think that's where that originated from, wasn't it? Even though we're using it as a platform and we really totally like it, but
I don't
wasn't
think
it something to do with Mark Zuckerberg?
it started out with one guy who wanted all his data erased from Google.
It was Google.
It was Google, yeah.
Right.
I can't remember the exact, situation, but he was, I think, a well-known criminal, and he wanted that erased from his, from Google, so that he could continue to, be a con man or something along those lines.
Excellent.
Don't quote me on that, Google, please.
You didn't say any names, you're good.
Yeah, I didn't. But then that guy took him to court, and then somebody else done it, and so on and so forth, and then it was right. Okay, let's rewrite data protection, and this is what they come up with. So big corporations like Google can't turn around and say, no, you can't have your data.
Wow.
Now we all have to provide it.
It's 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. It's a good thing in one hand because, those that want to take advantage of you can't. It's a really crappy thing on the other hand, because for people that are actually using data the way it was intended and the way it was freely given, we're punished and have so many extra steps to go through in order to make sure we're compliant. And it just makes it more of a headache. And we're not the ones that should be punished. It usually ends up being like 5% of the population that are the ones that should be watched, and 95% of the population that shouldn't be watched. But
yeah, absolutely,
it is what it is. So one question that I've had, because I walked around and I was asking a lot of people what they thought of our profile, because I knew that you were coming on. And people were asking, well, how do they make money? Not that it's any of their business, and you can feel free to answer me or not, as you choose. But I guess people are always a little bit suspicious of something that, is there and seems to be fairly free and fairly cheap.
Yeah. Okay. So we can't charge a candidate for advertising their putting a CV online, basically, essentially, is what they're doing, and looking for work. So first of all, it's illegal. And I don't want to do that, so obviously that's always going to be free. The whole platform's not free. If you want to post a job, then I'm charging £50 plus VAT, which is £60 per job post. And then at the same time, we're building the directory and the advertising side of things as well. So that will obviously be another revenue stream that will come in. I didn't want to come new to the market, with a high price for posting a job. Because first of all, it's difficult enough, to get people to actually post jobs and pay for the privilege of doing it. So we came in at 60 quid. We were going to go 120. The price will rise, in the future, obviously, because it's not.
Well, you've got to build something, and as it builds, of course, it's worth more money.
Of course, and plus, it costs more to run it. To store the data online and all that sort of stuff. You'd be quite surprised at the amount of third-party applications that make Port Profile what it is.
Yeah,
it's a lot, and all of those are subscriptions, and then there's the hosting of it is £600 a month, so it's almost another mortgage. So it's not,
I know, running a radio station, same thing. You've got to have this subscription, you've got to pay the hoster if you want to, hold more information. In my case, it's more songs.
Absolutely.
Then you've got to pay extra. And of course, you've got to have your music service that you've got to pay for songs, and then you've got to pay a percentage of every song played on your radio station. So it's the same sort of deal. Everything costs money. Nothing is free.
And of course, you want to automate it because you don't have the time as a one-man band currently.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're a one-man band too.
Yep.
You haven't got time and hours to sit and organize everything and blah blah blah. So we automate it to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
And save time and motion so we can concentrate on the core business.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. So eventually, it's advertising and the cost of advertising a job. And that is how you're going to gradually make a living. But it's always going to be cheaper than the conventional crew placement.
Absolutely. There will never be a commission at the end of it. That was always my intention. There's other platforms out there that charge per job post, and and it's massive in the UK as well. I'm sure it is all over the world to pay, per job post. Some of the platforms I've looked at in the UK, nothing to do with yachting, they charge £300 per job post. I'm just like, wow, that's pretty steep. But if they had the database, then why not? People use it. Well,
I guess at the end of the day, though, if a company is using a crew placement agency, generally speaking, isn't the fee an entire month's wages of whatever employee that? So if you're talking a captain of a 70-meter super yacht, then that's quite a payday.
That's a substantial amount of money to hand over a CV. I'm not suggesting that all recruitment agencies do this, but a lot of them are, absolutely fantastic and really, really do work and do the job that they're meant to be doing and follow through and all that sort of stuff. But with Poor Profile, my initial idea was that not everybody wants to use a recruitment agency, for whatever reason. And, if you think about the smaller boats, they're sort of 25, 24, under 24, and, under 30 sort of meter.
Yeah.
They might not have the budget, to use a recruiter.
Yeah.
So for them to pay £60 to find their candidate, then hey, you're laughing. It's a no-brainer at the end of the day because they're in control of the recruitment process through Port Profile, and they can choose who they want. And it's a very simple, streamlined process. And also, if you think about it, once you receive your CV from a recruiter and you choose that candidate, then you have to do all the follow-up stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Which is, verify the documentations, send them other documentations, SCAs and all this sort of stuff, to fill out. You can do all that through Port Profile and keep everything in the one place and keep track of what you're doing. So, there's benefits to that side of it as well.
Well, I guess going forward, it could be a very useful tool for new builds, really.
Yeah.
Because if they've got, if you've got a super yacht, you've got a lot of people over, I don't know, how many crew would you have on like an 80 meter?
Probably around about 27 to 30.
Yeah, so if you imagine the cost to have a crew placement agency place 27 to 30 employees, as opposed to going on to, for example, Port Profile, and then whittling it down to a few and doing it yourself, you're saving yourself a lot.
A vast
money.
amount of cash.
Yeah, maybe for things like the captain and the engineer, you specifically want to use a crew placement because that's huge. Yeah. I'm not saying that the crew, chief stew, deckhands, anything or any less, but when you have somebody that is taking care of all your lives, such as the captain, that is pretty important. Yeah. But so that could be a possibility too. The amount of money that they could save in placing the crew means that perhaps that money could go towards paying the crew a little bit more, essentially.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. It'll certainly keep the owners happy as well, and then perhaps, like I said, the owners can say, use that money for that, or the management company. I do see lots more management companies now looking at the recruitment side of things as well. So I do think, that potentially Port Profile will be fantastic and is a fantastic tool for management companies because they can do their own, dedicate one person to it for the fleet. So, right, use Port Profile, this is how much, and they can also negotiate a subscription package as well if they want to, through placing a lot of crew. So I'm open to those sort of conversations as well. We will develop a subscription package in the future,
right?
But at the beginning when we launched it, that was another huge amount of cash to develop that side of things. So I said put that on hold,
right?
Save that for the future. We don't need it straight away.
No.
And yeah.
So you're now heading off to be a chef again for the season?
I am. I'm doing a 2-month contract on an 85-meter yacht. I won't name the yacht because it's not allowed to. Or it's not, it's frowned upon.
So, yes, of course, it always is. But how many crew are you going to be responsible for crew and guests?
Crew and guests, I think around about 27 to 30 crew. So,
wow. So how many hours do you put in per day for that then?
Hours of rest are set out by the MCA. It's up to 14 hours a day, which is what you're meant to work, and 10 hours rest. And generally, I do adhere to it, and some of the sounds of the yacht I'm joining, they have a night chef as well. Yeah. So it's going to be, I'd imagine it's quite easy to, maintain those hours of rest and make sure. I always, like to make sure that my crew get that, so my sous chef and my crew chef and sous chef get their breaks, as they should, because there's nothing worse than working, 6 a.m. till midnight straight through. It's bonkers. There's no need to do it. And if you're organised and you're set up, then it's achievable. Yeah. Depending on, again, what the needs of the owners and guests are. Yeah. I mean, I've had a barbecue thrown at me at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Well, of course, because they're coming out. They're coming home after a wonderful evening out.
So barbecue on the beach. Okay, no problem. And then the captain questions why my hours of rest that week are all red. 1 a.m. barbecue.
Excellent.
Yeah. Got up to bed at 3, 4.
Oh,
But it happens, you know.
Yeah.
In those cases, when it does happen, you have to explain why, and they go, okay, well, you get the time paid back to you, sort of thing. Well, at the end of the job, you get some extra time off. That's the way it works.
Well, what's happening with Port Profile next? What's your next step then? Where are you headed with it?
The next step is we've got some amendments to make based on feedback that I've had from the users so far. So, for instance, the chat function at the moment is kind of hidden until you've shortlisted your candidates. We're going to open it up so that you can actually chat to them prior to shortlisting. So it's little things like that, you know, once you start using it, once it's live, you start to say that, oh, well, that should be like that, that should be like that. So we're doing that. We've got a whole, so we call it a sprint of work. It'll probably last 2 weeks. And then the developers will, you know, do all that, set it all up, send me the prototype. I sign it off. But yes, that sounds good. That looks good. Happy with that. Tweak that. Change that, etc., etc. So it's, you know, it's a development process. Same as if you're designing a house, sort of thing, you know. You just sign stuff off when you're happy with it. We'll upload all those to the live version, which is will be at the end of 2 weeks. And then during that also, I'm going to be open. I'm adding a huge amount of new roles as well. So we just done the basics to start with. Now adding further roles as per requested by, you know, other users, like you say. And also I'm adding land-based roles as well.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to include all the management side of things and charter and brokerage and all that.
Right.
And then cruise ships, adding all of those as well. And the management side of cruise ships, hotel and catering in the UK, everything. And villas.
You are literally taking over the universe, really.
Well, that's the plan. So, I mean, the platform's there, and I've just thought, you know, through discussion with other people, it's like, well, why not? You know.
Yeah.
We won't necessarily use the algorithm for the land-based roles because it's, you know, it's not really necessary, and that's a vast amount of work, you know. And it's just easier to add the role there because, you know, requirements across the globe change per position, per role, per company. So to try and achieve an algorithm for all of those would be crazy. So we're not going to do that, but we'll keep the algorithm Cindy for yachting only. Because it works better that way. But yeah, that's the plan. That's where we're going next. Airlines possibly after that.
Huh. Sounds like everything's going your way then. Well, it's nice to see that you've got actually a firm business plan and that you're open to making changes. And I mean, I think that is the most important thing in today's day and age, especially when you are starting a business, whether it be in yachting or anything else, is that you have to be prepared to, you know, you might have the idea of going straight ahead, but you might have to veer a little bit left or veer a little bit right as trends change, as concepts change, as people come to you with things that maybe you never thought of before.
Absolutely.
So it's nice to see. You have to have an open mind, I think. Really.
Absolutely. You know, and feedback is positive, you know, whether it's a negative thing, you know, someone might turn around and go, I can't do this, why is this not working? Which is generally what happens. But then I can log in, look at their profile and go, well, actually, you've done this, so this is what's happening, that's why that's happening. And taking that feedback and then going back to the designers and saying, right, well, we need to change this because this is happening quite regularly and people aren't getting that bit.
Yeah.
So we need to change that. And it's good, you know.
But I mean, even sometimes if it's that they're doing something wrong, maybe it's because you haven't made it very apparent.
Exactly,
to make it
absolutely.
Right.
It's the way it's been designed.
Yeah. So you have to make those little tweaks in order for it to be.
To make the user journey more.
It's called KISS.
Right, yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Simple, stupid, yeah.
And you have to go with the lowest common denominator of society in order to make anything, you know, anything today really function. Because anybody that's
we've had a couple of numpties, I have to say. I'm not going to say what for obvious reasons, but we had a few giggles.
Yeah.
I have to say the least.
Something I was talking to you about is possibly when you get back from your 2-month chef gig, that you and I can get together. We can have a little event down on the dock somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
And sign people up. And this way, you know, we can get all the people that are doing some dog walking. By then, there's not going to be an overwhelming number, but there still will be some.
Yeah.
Getting all the people that are doing some dog walking, coming down, talking to you live on Facebook and doing some interviewing and just chatting about what it's like in the industry. And hopefully some that aren't newbies or greenies to see how they think it's changed.
Absolutely, yeah.
At the same time, him signing you all up. So we'll
Show
have
me how it
Anton
works.
signing up into the port profile, and maybe that will be something that can help with the dock walk.
Absolutely, without a shadow of doubt. I mean, port profile for greenies is fantastic because it gives you the opportunity to demonstrate and showcase yourself. Because, you come to the industry with absolutely no yachting background, and you do get overlooked. But there are lots of yachts out there who look for greenies, and newcomers to the industry, for a week's work here, a week's work there, and that's how you build up your CV and your experience in the yachting industry. And once you've got a bit of that on your CV, then you can go and say, right, I'm good for a full-time job now. Or you might have done a 2-week job on a yacht, and someone's, the chief officer says, hey, this guy's fantastic, hire him. That happens a lot as well.
I've seen a lot of that actually. And you know what? I got to say, one of the greatest places is Palma Yacht Crew.
Yeah.
And Lars Molin
does a really good job.
Amazing job. I mean, he's like, I called him the god of yachting one day. And of course, Lars being Lars,
he wouldn't have liked that.
He doesn't like that at all, not in the slightest. But he literally is, he's like Neptune, King Neptune. That's what we'll call you, King Neptune of the yachting industry. But the amount of people, they go and they do day work, and sure enough, I mean, there's no more work for them on that yacht, but the captain will say, hey, he will do his own post and state, this guy is looking for work, and absolutely corker
Absolutely,
of crew. And you would be very, very, blessed to have him or her. So, I
mean, it did actually just happen to me on this 2-month job I'm doing. The chief officer knows the previous captain, or I worked with the previous captain, and I was I'd been reference checked before I was rang up, and just said, well, you got the job if you want it. I'm like, okay. And off you go, and that's the power of word of mouth and experience as well, But,
well, and the thing is, I think they have to realize that it doesn't matter if it's just one day work. This industry is
the impression that you give.
Tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tiny. It may be worldwide, but it is a tiny little industry. So if you get on board a yacht and all of a sudden you're acting like a princess or a prince, and you think you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or you don't put your full back into it, reputation's going to spread.
Yeah.
People talk. If you do a great job and you put, above and beyond, well, then people talk about that too. And so you create your future. So for example, as the time goes on and you spend longer in the industry, you don't even have to look for work.
Yeah.
People call you and say, hey, are you free? And then, there's no need for the stress of, am I going to find work? Am I going to find work? Because you know that you put your time in.
Absolutely, yeah.
You worked your ass off. It's like you said, you worked for 50 quid a month?
50 quid a month back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
not quite that now.
I see so many people complaining about the wages for a green stew, and I'm thinking, some of these guys are willing to just get.
I know. Someone posted a job on Port Profile the other day, and it was for a 35-meter yacht, and it was a perfect job for a new chef coming to the industry. It's $3,000 a month, and people are going, that's far too low. It's far too low. I'm like, think about it. Right, you're in the UK, you earn $1,000 a week or whatever, $1,500. You get offered $3,000 for 4 months' work in the summer. You bloody jump at it. It's not a permanent long-term position, but still, $3,000 compared to 1.5. A person wanting to get a foothold in the industry would jump at that position just for the experience. And
well, yeah, and if it's only for 2 or 3, months, I mean.
Then I got a lot of abuse saying, you're lowering, the standards. I'm like, I don't post the jobs. I don't set the prices or the salary.
Yeah. And
it just, it's a little bit small-minded to certain people, I think. Okay, a lot of people in the industry will say $3,000's not too much money, but if it's, a temporary gig, I know a lot of chefs that would jump at it and go, hey.
If you're green and you get the chance to do that, and after a few months, at least then you've got something on you, because they're always asking for experience, I mean, always asking for experience. It's almost like nowadays, you're 20, they want 20, but they want 7 years of experience. Do you know what I mean? And every ticket known to man, and so many, miles logged and everything else. You're like, but I'm 20.
It's not possible to have
No, exactly. But it's almost unrealistic. So the expectations.
A lot of demands.
Yeah.
For sure.
But, right. So my battery is now running low.
We've just been told to quit.
But we've been talking for And you know what's funny? It's 49 minutes, and you
Wow,
said there's no
really?
way I want to talk for an hour. So I gotcha.
You did.
Told
indeed.
you. Anyways, thank you so much, Anton B. Park.
Thank
And,
you, Riaru.
The company, Raul.
Raoul.
Don't worry, it's my ex-husband's last name. And we don't need to pronounce it. It's just Ria. Port Profile is the company.
It is indeed,
And
yes.
we'll be updating you on, what's going on with the company over the next few months. And of course, like we said, we're going to get together maybe September sometime,
Yeah, definitely.
and put together a little event and have some fun, some nibbles, some beers, some
Absolutely. Some wine.
Well, yeah,
Always wine.
I like wine. Wine is
We'll
good.
bring beer to the party as well, for sure.
Yeah. But good luck with your gig this summer.
Thank you very much.
You'll have to stay in touch. And if you guys are interested in listening to this interview later, of course, we will have it up on yachtinginternationalradio.com. And if you have an Android phone, a Google Play, we have an app for you as well. The iPhone app is coming soon. I don't have it yet because I don't like iPhone, but whatever, that's just me.
I do. All about the iPhone.
No.
Mac all the way.
Right. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you later.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the going?